Niner fans, it's about that time. 4:30. Faithful Niner Empire. What's good? You know who it is. It's your boy, Jay in the Bay. And it's a pleasure, always a pleasure, to be in front of the faithful, the Niner Empire, the best fans in the NFL. It's always a pleasure to be on with best fans in the NFL. And shout out to everyone watching on Jay in the Bay YouTube channel. Shout out to everyone watching on that good old Spotlight Sports Network. I appreciate everyone watching then. It's been an eventful, I would say, 48 to 96 hours for the Niner Empire. And the reason I say that is because obviously, we did not make a trade for Julio Jones. And it turned out that the Niners did not even offer, a trade for Julio Jones and the Atlanta Falcons. So that's something that I'll definitely talk about. The Niners did not even offer compensation for Julio Jones to try to acquire him. So I think that tells us about, what the 49ers brass thinks about the current wide receivers. Also, the injuries that we sustained, Justin School and Tavarius Moore, Jeff Wilson Jr., of course. I'll definitely talk about that. We're also reacting to the press conference today between the head coach, Kyle Shanahan, and the offensive coordinator, Mike McDaniel. So we'll definitely be talking about those topics today. But this show is nothing. This show is nothing without the fans, without the people conversing with Jay in the Bay in the chat. And, of course, I welcome all fans, not just Niner fans, but every team of the NFL is welcome to the show. And let's start off with them comments. Let's say what's up to the people in the chat. And also, obviously, before I get to the chat, there were, we've had, everyone knows we've had injuries with the 49ers. So I want to drop off this question right off the back. How can the 49ers avoid injuries in a physical sport? You guys let me know in the comment section. What can Kyle Shanahan do differently to avoid injuries in a physical sport? I mean, what can he do? Let me know in them comments. But speaking of them comments, let's say what's up to the people. So Damian Lee, first comment, he says, when it rains, it pours. Yeah, it was definitely raining, Damian. That's for sure. Hopefully, I won't have to say that too many times before the season starts. Hopefully there'll be more light at the end of this tunnel, going into the regular season. Matt Navarro, what's good? How you doing today, man? On a Wednesday, starting a little bit early today at 4:30. How you doing today? CG Ruthless Sports, what's good? Thanks for tuning in to the stream, CG. How you doing today on this Wednesday? 49ers first takes, what's good? How you doing, brother? Thanks for tuning in to the stream. Roberto Hastings, what's good? I'm doing good, man. I'm just talking about the 49ers. I want to hear what the faithful think about the last 24 hours of news of the team. And make sure you guys respond to that question I have on the ticker. How can the 49ers avoid injuries? I don't think that – I don't know what else Shanahan can do. And I'll talk about the way Skull and Tavarius Moore were hurt. And I will get into that, but I don't think what can Shanahan do? I mean, this is a physical sport. If I'm running a 20-mile marathon, I have to practice. I have to ramp up. I can't just start running 20 miles. I have to slowly build up to that. And that's what the OTAs is all about. It's about learning the terminology, especially for the young guys. It's about getting in better shape. But to get into shape, you have to be physical. You can't get better sitting at home. The only way you can get better is on the field. So I don't know what else Shanahan could do. It's just very unfortunate that, we've had 3 injuries already, in the past week. let's continue with these comments. Payo Time, what's good? Thanks for tuning in to the stream, man. I'm enjoying your Moose series on your YouTube channel, Payo Time. Keep doing what you're doing. Definitely enjoying that. Sean T. Uber, what's good? Appreciate you joining the stream, man. Payo Time says Niners need a medic at OTAs. That's cap. I mean, Payo Time, what are they supposed to do? I mean, I don't know what Shanahan's supposed to do. We can't wave his magic wand and promise that there won't be any injuries. I mean, I don't know what Shanahan's supposed to do. I mean, I know people have said they talked about the training staff and things like that, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But I don't know what else Shanahan's supposed to do. Niners all day 55. I feel you, man. No more injuries. I feel you. But it's a physical sport. This is tackle football. This is not two-hand touch. This is not flag football. This is a physical sport. And in order to prepare for the rigors of the NFL, you have to practice how you play. You can't go 50% in practice and then all of a sudden go straight to 100% in the real games. You just can't do that. That's not how these athletes work out. So I don't know what else Shanahan's supposed to do. Tommy Huxley, what's good? He says, let's start out with what the flying fig. Oh man. Let's see. Corey Davis, what's good? Thanks for tuning in to the stream, Corey. Corey, how you doing on a Wednesday? Let's see. CG Ruthless says no more injuries or Jack Daniels. I wish I could, reassure you guys or assure you guys that, hey, there's not going to be any more injuries the rest of the season, but that's just not reality. That's just not, unfortunately, that's just not going to happen. There's going to be injuries. It's a physical sport. Niner Empire. Y'all know that. Sean T. Uber says, it's just frustrating to see injuries with no contact. It is very frustrating. And especially with injuries that don't have to do anything with contact. To me, it's more about the players. You got to hydrate, you got to stretch, you got to make sure your body has everything it needs to perform at the highest level. But also, things happen. With Jeff Wilson Jr., he was not on the practice field. He was not in the weight room. Supposedly, Jeff Wilson Jr. was in the locker room. He was literally sitting on a bench. He stood up, turned, and then he tore his meniscus. So sometimes injuries are just fluke. I mean, how is Shanahan supposed to prevent that? Let's see. Tommy says maybe it's genetic. I mean, yeah, every player is different. I mean, look at Tom Brady. Obviously, he's a quarterback. It's a little bit different. You can't really hit the quarterbacks. He's only had a torn ACL in his career. I know he had knee surgery this past year, but yeah, some players, they just are able to stay healthy. Look at Frank Gore. Frank Gore, running back, had those ACL injuries at the University of Miami. But since he's been in the NFL, he's played majority of the games. So, and he's a running back. He gets hit on every play. So, I don't know what else to do. And, I played football a little bit in high school, and we did two-a-days. We would hit two-a-days for weeks at a time. Even years ago in the NFL, when they were allowed two-a-days, guys were hitting more often. Guys were working out more often. So, now is probably the least amount of practice time that the NFLPA allows, and guys are still getting hurt. So, yeah, I mean, it seems like a torn ACL is a similar, like we hear that seems like every week that a player gets a torn ACL for every team very, very often. And I don't remember hearing about those injuries years ago. So, I don't know what's changed. Sean T says, don't practice is the only way to guarantee no injuries. Exactly, right? I mean, yeah, that's the only way. I mean, we can't put bubble wrap around the players, man. We can't do that. And that's just not realistic. In order to get better at playing football, newsflash, you got to play football. I mean, that's just how it is. You have to practice. You have to practice how you play. You got to practice 100%, and that's just how it is. It's like Payout Time says, I think the Niners need to not draft as many players with injury history. It is a legit critic of the Niners, not just being a troll Rams fan. Well, what players this year did we draft that had injury history? Let me know in the comments section. But when you're playing a physical sport, it's very rare to find a player who has never gotten hurt. Like that's just, that's I mean, in the sport of football, the physical sport of football, it's not if you'll get hurt, it's when you will get hurt. Eventually, you're going to get hurt in football. It's just a matter of time. Let's see. Matt says 49ers need to hire a priest and perform an exorcism in Levi's to get rid of that bad juju. That is an interesting theory. People were saying, hey, since they moved away from San Francisco, they moved to Santa Clara. First, you guys remember, right? When, a few years ago, it seems so long ago, but when the Niners first moved to Santa Clara, there were issues with the turf on the actual home field playing turf. Now, there's two different facilities I know of. There's a stadium where the games are actually played, but usually the players practice on a separate practice field. That's not the stadium. But there were issues with the turf at the home stadium of the Levi Stadium for at least a year or two. They were having issues with it. So, like you said, Matt, it could be bad juju. I don't know what they can do to solve it. Let's see. Corey Davis says he needs to check out Russell Wilson training because he never hardly gets injured and miss a game. Now, you're definitely right about that. Russell Wilson is a beast. And the thing about Russell Wilson is he trains. He trains in the offseason. There's no doubt. Russell Wilson trains in the offseason. He gets nicked up, but he rarely misses a game. And there's a difference between a player who gets injured and he forces himself to continue to play, like I've seen Russell Wilson do. Like he'll be hurt, you can tell, but he'll continue to play. And that's in Russell Wilson. And other players, they get injured and they can't beat the pain. The pain overtakes them and they can't continue to play a game. And I'm not faulting the player in that situation. Pain tolerance, that's dependent on the player. That's not something that I fault a player like, oh, well, he can handle more pain and this player can, so that player is better. I wouldn't necessarily say that because, pain tolerance is just something that's unique to the individual. But as far as injuries, there's no doubt. Russell Wilson trains at the highest level in the offseason. And yeah, he rarely gets hurt, but also he doesn't get hit that much. And then when he does, usually he tries to avoid hits and things like that. But some guys, I guess, are more prone to injuries, I guess. That's right, Tommy. On a Wednesday. Jay Avila, what's good? Thanks for tuning in to the stream. First time I've seen you. Let's see. Jay Avila says, this early in the year, I don't believe you should be practicing at 100%, especially when he came out a couple of days saying that a lot of our guys were not in football shape, so why make them go 100%? That's a very excellent point, Jay. And the guys, I agree, they shouldn't be practicing 100%. But in order to get in football shape, you got to play football. You have to at least be working out. You have to be stretching. You have to be running. You have to be jogging. You have to be physical. That's the only way you get prepared for football. And look at any sport. Look, I don't care if it's basketball. Baseball is kind of, they stand around a lot. But you look at basketball, look at any basketball, track, soccer, you have to be physical. You have to get into shape. You have to run. You have to jog. You have to stretch. You have to fuel your body with water, vitamins, whatever. So yeah, they should not be at 100%, but they need to continue to ramp up. So if the guy is not in shape, the only way to get him in shape, he's got to run. He's got to run. He's got to work out. He's got to lift weights. And whenever you're physical, that's when injuries can happen. And I agree. You should not be practicing right now at 100%. You should slowly ramp up until the preseason. But in order to get into physical shape to play football, you got to work out. You have to be physical. And whenever you're physical, whenever you're walking around, you're running, injuries can happen. But I appreciate your comment, Jay. Let's see. Tommy Huxley says, so Jay, our OTAs canceled, and what about training camp? Yeah. So that was another bit of news that Kyle Shanahan had in the presser today. Kyle Shanahan announced that the mandatory mini camp that was scheduled for next week will be canceled. And that was basically because of, the Niners had about 89 players participate in the OTAs. Shanahan said that was excellent, and they got a lot of things done, in the 8 days they were at camp. And he wanted the guys to have some time off. And Shanahan mentioned the number 40. Shanahan wanted the players to have 40 days off before the start of, training camp. I believe that's in July, like late July. And by giving the guys off now, they're able to have 40 days off prior to the start of training camp. So that was revealed in the presser today with Kyle Shanahan. Sean T. Uber says, Jerry Rice never had an injury in practice or training camp. Exactly. And Jerry Rice, he's known for running that huge hill. Jerry Rice is, not only is he the best wide receiver ever, but he's also one of the most, conditioned athletes ever. But, Jerry Rice, is there something in his genes? I know Jerry Rice, I think he had like a torn ACL in his career, but he's been healthy for the majority of his career. So, and not every player can be Jerry Rice. Some players, they can train just like Jerry. They can have the same nutrition as Jerry, and they could get hurt. Sometimes, like Tommy said, it could be genetics. But yeah, Jerry Rice is definitely a unique figure. He's definitely one of the one of the best receivers to ever do it. Could be considered the best player to ever do it. Jerry Rice. He's also one of the most conditioned athletes. Definitely that donned a Niner uniform. That's for sure. Niner Faithful, what's good? Niner Faithful says, hopefully the team can stop these injuries because I don't want to repeat it last year. You speak for a lot of us, Niner Faithful. We definitely don't want to repeat it last year. I just don't know what can be done to, I believe Sean T said, you don't practice. Well, if you don't practice, you don't get better. If you're every day, either you're getting better at your craft or you're getting worse. I don't think you stay the same. So, the Niners, they have to continue to practice, and that's the only way they can get better, especially the rookies. And the rookies this year definitely have an advantage over the rookies last year. The rookies last year had, no OTAs, no mini camp, no training camp, no preseason. So the rookies last year were definitely at a disadvantage. And the rookies this year, I'm sure these OTAs definitely benefited them just to get used to the speed of the NFL. That's the biggest difference that's one of the biggest difference from college to the NFL game is the speed of the game. And it's good that the rookies are able to go up against their teammates and experience the difference of the speed in the game. And that's something that's, very important. And that's something that the rookies definitely are benefit from that, from being in the OTAs and things like that. Damian Lee says Wayne Goldman and Trey Sermon will be fine. Now, I agree. I think we'll have a nice trio of running backs. Most likely that would be up on game day. Wayne Gallman, Trey Sermon, and Raheem Mostert. And I think they will definitely be good behind our offensive line. Oh man, CG Ruthless says hire Beast Rider as strength and conditioning coach. He knows everything about strength and conditioning. And that's the thing. The Niners, they're a $1 billion franchise, right? $1 billion business. I'm sure they did their due diligence when they were looking for a strength and conditioning coach, in the 2018 season, because that's when they hired their new strength and conditioning coach. That was in the 2018 season. I'm sure they looked long and far to find the best person. And for whatever reason, whether it's the strength and conditioning person's fault, whether it's the players, I think the players do have to be held accountable somewhat, whether it's, hydration, stretching, things like that. I mean, the players should be held accountable somewhat, I think. Bastion Ones, what's good? Thanks for tuning in to the stream. He says Trey Sermon had a back concussion last year's national title. Yeah, I remember that. I think he got hurt like the first play of the game, I think. He was out the rest of the game. Tommy Huxley says, and this is in response to the rookie draft class. possibly having injury. So Tommy says none of them have an injury history, just Hufanga. He broke his collarbone and had dislocated shoulder. Yeah, Hufanga has. I looked at his injury history in college. He's definitely had several injuries, and he could, that's definitely would be considered an injury-prone player. But I expect him to contribute on special teams. I'm not expecting Hufanga to really start on defense, but we'll see what happens. Let's see. Sebastian says, I hope as a Bucks fan rooting for him in the NFL. Okay. Niner Faithful says, Justin Fields had an injury history. I think that's why Kyle chose Trey over him, because I don't think Trey has an injury history. Yeah. And I think there's a difference between, when a player has a torn ACL, torn Achilles, those seem like fluke injuries. A lot of those injuries, when we see those torn ACL and torn ligaments, it just seems like they're fluky injuries. Usually they're non-contact. Oftentimes they're non-contact. Sometimes they are contact, but it seems like those type of injuries are fluky injuries. And but hamstring injuries, foot injuries, that could be wear and tear. That could be lack of hydration, things like that. So I think we do have to we definitely got to hold Shanahan responsible somewhat, because hey, he's the head of the franchise, but also I think the players have to be held responsible as well to a certain extent. Whose house? Rams house. What's good, man? How you doing? Thanks for tuning in to the stream. Sebastian One says, "What's up, Jay? Thanks for subbing to me and my French." Absolutely, man. I appreciate you, and I enjoyed your time on the Payo YouTube channel today. You were talking about your good old Cleveland Browns, so yeah, man, definitely. And thanks for checking out my channel as well. Shane Sweeney, what's good? Thanks for tuning in to the stream, man. Appreciate you coming through. If you guys are enjoying the stream so far, make sure you hit that thumbs up button, and make sure you subscribe to your boy Jay in the Bay if you haven't already on YouTube. And shout out to everyone watching on that good old Spotlight Sports Network. 49ers Lakers for life. What's good? Thanks for tuning in to the stream, man. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about the 49ers latest news. Now, in regards to Nick Bosa, so everyone knows that Nick Bosa had the torn ACL last year. He's been rehabbing. And he's been rehabbing away from the 49ers facility in Florida with his brother Joey. And Nick Bosa did show up for the 49ers off-season program, but he did not partake in any on-field activities due to him continuing to rehab that ACL. And obviously, he spent a majority of his offseason in his hometown in Florida. And hopefully, Bosa will be ready for training camp. But, if it were me, I wouldn't have Bosa play in 100% of the snaps if it were me. Once the first game starts, I'd be surprised if Bosa plays in the preseason. I would want him to play game one of the regular season, but definitely not 100% of the snaps. Have him play maybe about 35% of the snaps, and I want to ease Bosa in to the game plan. I don't want him to play 100% of snaps, and our D-line depth is pretty good, so we can definitely use Bosa sparingly in the beginning of the games, at least the first month of the season, just to ease Bosa in, because we definitely want Bosa for the long haul of the season. And Tavarius Moore, obviously he had that torn Achilles, and I believe that was in Monday's practice. And Shanahan confirmed today that Tavarius Moore, how he got hurt was he was in a defensive back drill, he was backpedaling, and he went forward from his back pedal, and that's when his Achilles just tore. So I don't know how Shanahan can prevent that. That just seems like a fluke injury. And in regards to Justin School, he was also hurt. He tore his ACL, and how Justin School got injured, he was pass protecting and against a defensive lineman, and his knee just buckled. So, those type of injuries, I just feel like they just happen. I don't know how you can prevent that. These are These are movements. These are plays that the guys do every day. Like defensive backs, they practice their back pedal every day, and more just happened to tore his Achilles. Justin School, he's in his pass protection. He does that every day, and it just so happened that his knee gave out. I mean, it sucks. It's very unfortunate, but I'm not sure what the Niners can do. Let's continue with these comments. Matt Navarro says, what are they saying about Talanoa Hufanga? Well, so obviously he came out of USC. He seems like he'll be a safety that is closer to the line of scrimmage because Hufanga loves to hit, but he did suffer multiple injuries in college. But on the Niners this year, I'm excited to see how he'll play in preseason, how he'll be able to be in coverage against, NFL wide receivers. But I envision Hufanga being a special teams player, at least for the first year, because we have, unless Tart and Ward get hurt, then we might be able to see Hufanga earlier than I think we would. But even after Ward and Tart, there's still the player we just signed, Jefferson, and there's also Tavon Wilson. So we still have solid depth, in that second, and we still have Marcel Harris as well. So there's still solid depth in that secondary. Huxley says Navarro, the only player with injury history that was drafted. Yeah, with Hufanga, exactly. All the other players, I didn't notice any significant injuries like torn ACLs or injuries that require surgery. Rams House says, who will lead in receiving yards for the Niners? I put it on Kittle or the IU show. Yeah, for the leader in receiving yards, I would say most likely Kittle. I would say so. Or could be Debo, but yeah, most likely it'll be Kittle or Ayuk. And hopefully those three guys can stay healthy all year. And speaking of receivers, Kyle Shanahan did talk about the receivers. And speaking of the receivers, there's a lot of talk about who will be the 49ers' third wide receiver. And I believe Shanahan mentioned Richie James and Juwan Jennings as probably the guys who will most likely be that number 3 wide receiver. And I think that's a good bunch. And hopefully Jalen Hurd can be productive this year as well. But I don't think any concrete decision is made in June as far as who's going to be a third wide receiver. I think that'll be determined, in preseason in August. I think that will be determined. Let's see. Tommy Huxley says the Giants had a lot of injuries this year, still in first place. Now that's good for the Giants. Yeah, I heard they are playing pretty well. Kind of surprising, but yeah. I see your comments, Damien. What's good, man? I see your comments. Sick Beats. What's good? How you doing, man? Thanks for tuning in to the stream. This is the first time I've seen you in my stream, so I appreciate you coming through. And hope you enjoyed the show. 49er Faithful says, Kyle said he's done with practice until training camp. Yep. Yeah. Because we were supposed to have a mandatory mini camp next week, but, those practices have been canceled, mostly because the 49ers had 89 players through the OTAs, and Shanahan basically said that a lot of things got accomplished in those OTAs, and he also wanted to have the players have 40 days off prior to the July training camp, and that's why next week has been canceled. Next week's practices have been canceled. It's like Shanti Uber says, slow and go, but don't rush. Maybe start with some yoga. And I've seen the guys. I don't know about yoga, but I've definitely seen the guy. I mean, yoga is basically just stretching. I mean, it's basically what it is, and breathing and things like that. But I've seen the players. They do their stretches. I've seen them. So I just think whenever you're being physical, it doesn't matter what sport it is, you're just more at risk of getting hurt. I just think you're just more at risk. Say Matt Navarro says, meaning How's he been doing in practice? Heard he was getting burnt. You talking about Taloa Hufanga? That was one of his, one of his negatives in his draft profile was he wasn't the fastest safety, so that could be a problem in the NFL. But he may be better, closer to the line of scrimmage, better in, stopping the run, rushing the quarterback, and things like that. I'm intrigued to see if our defensive coordinator, D'Amico Ryans, uses three safeties at times. One maybe to help to stop the run. Maybe one safety could be near the line of scrimmage to blitz the quarterback. I want to see what wrinkles D'Amico Ryans has and how is he going to put his stamp on this defense. 49er Faithful says maybe they just have the players run laps and stretch, then just go easy in practice and save the big contact plays for right before the season starts. And that's the thing. In order to be a good tackler on defense, I mean, you have to practice tackling. You don't get better at tackling and you don't get better at sacking the quarterback by not doing those things in practice. But these injuries occurred. These were non-contact injuries, meaning the players didn't have pads on, but they still were doing their drills if you're a DB, you do your back pedal. That's just something you do. You've done that ever since you've played the position. Like that's one of the first things you're taught as a defensive back, whether you're playing corner or safety. You have to have a good back pedal. Don't get beat deep. And those are just things you practice on a daily basis, your back pedal. And for Moore to get hurt doing that with something he's done thousands of times, it's like it could be wear and tear. It could be just a fluke. And I think that's just what it comes down to. It's very unfortunate because we've seen, obviously we had a ton of injuries last year, and it just seems like we already got three players, and we're only in June. So it's definitely, not a good sign. Tommy Huxley says he agrees with Niner faithfully, definitely. That's like Matt says. Man, he says, don't make them stretch. They'll pull their hamstring. Oh, man, that's funny. Tommy says maybe some light jogging. Maybe some light jogging. Okay. I mean, but then they got to be conditioned, right? The football game, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's 4 quarters. You got to be conditioned. So, but I appreciate everyone's feedback. But it's interesting going back and forth to see what can we do to prevent these injuries. And I don't think there's much you can do besides the things that the Niners are already doing. Niner Faithful says Samson Ibukum can take most of Bosa snaps in early. Exactly. Ibukum can take Bosa snaps. Arden Key is there. Jordan Willis. Armstead, if he's playing the in position, he may play both. He may play defensive tackle next to Kinlaw, or he could play outside. I'd rather Armstead play inside next to Kinlaw, but Armstead can play outside. So there are other options for Bosa because, I definitely don't want Bosa playing 100% of snaps. Just ease him in to the season, and that's what I'm saying. Ramp up slowly. You slowly go up. You just don't go 100%. And that's basically what happened last year. Since there was no OTAs, no mini camp, no preseason, no training camp, that's what the players did. They went from 0 to 100 real quick, So, and I think that's part of the reason why there were injuries. And also, it was just a weird year. It was COVID. Everything was different. Let's see. Aiden, what's good? Aiden is a Seattle Seahawks fan. Excellent YouTube channel. We definitely have to collab in the future when the Niners take on them good old Seattle Seahawks. But I'm doing good, man. I'm just talking about, you see it, the red and gold, the Niner Empire. So thanks for coming through to the stream, man. Let's see. CG says Kittle will get covered more, probably will be a huge factor no matter what. Exactly. Because I think Kittle can beat man-to-man coverage. Without a doubt. Let's see. Tommy says, who is his Ed McMahon NTI? show? That's a good question. I think I'm gonna have to get back to you on that, Tommy. CG says Juwan Jennings is standing. Yeah, he is. Juwan Jennings has definitely come into camp in shape. He's looking good compared to last year. And last year was a blip, hopefully not a trend, but definitely Jennings is making his mark. Hopefully he can stay healthy this year, this offseason, going into training camp. Because, yeah, he's got a legitimate shot to be that third wide receiver behind Kittle and Debo, behind Ayuk and Debo. Let's see. Corey Davis says, have the players drink lots of milk and get vitamin D. And that's the thing. You know, what we know now in 2021 about nutrition, about rest, about, having your body perform at its highest level. Yeah, I think the Niners are probably at the forefront of making sure their players get the right nutrition, get the right rest. And a lot of NFL teams are, because there's so much information now about how can the athlete play their best. And I feel like the Niners are doing that. I mean, I don't know what else they can do. Obviously, the Niners, I'm sure, are top notch at every level in their facility, as far as working out, weights, pools, tubs, hot tubs. I mean, whatever. I feel like the Niners are already doing that. But this is a great suggestion, and I'm sure the players are doing this now. I'm pretty sure. Tommy says milk is for baby cows. Well, they have this thing now, Tommy, like almond milk, cashew milk. It's a little bit healthier. Sometimes that dairy stuff ain't too good on your system, depending upon who the player is. But that almond milk is very good. Let's see. Tommy says Moore was fast, but still sucked at coverage a lot of the time. Yeah, Moore was one of the fastest players in our secondary. He was probably the fastest player in our secondary, I would say, Tavarius Moore. And Tavarius Moore was not expected to start, but he added depth to the secondary. And unfortunately, that's one player who will not be productive this year. And also, I believe Tavarius Moore was on special teams too. So I don't know, Tommy. I don't know, buddy. Oh man. Yeah, so I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know who created their their thumbnail first or whatever, but yeah, I don't know why. But I usually go on at 5. So I don't know, man. I don't know. Let's see. 49ers First Take says Crocker had an ex-NFL DB who played 12 years on his channel. He said the injuries come from guys overtraining in the offseason and not allowing their body time to recover. Okay. And that could be true. I mean, you look at Jay Rice, he's known for his conditioning. He's known for his workouts. I don't know about his recovery time, but every player is different. Some players, they can be workout warriors and it won't affect them during the season. And some players, they need to have that rest. But once the players leave the facility, I mean, the 49ers, they can't keep tabs on the players. Once they leave the facility, once they leave Santa Clara, once they leave Levi Stadium, I mean, what is the organization supposed to do? They can tell the players, okay, you should do this, this, and this. This is how you should, this is how you should rest your body. This is how you should work out. This is how you should provide fuel for your body, eating the right foods. But once the players leave the facility, it's out of the Niners' control at that point. Let's see. Sean T. Uber says, overtraining does make sense. Why so many injuries? Every player should be an easy off-season training schedule. That's a double-edged sword, Sean. And you bring up a great point. But if the players don't come into shape in training camp, well, then they have to get into shape. And how do you get into shape playing football? You have to run. You have to jog. You have to stretch. You have to hydrate your body. You have to do all these things. So, whether it's their training outside of the facility to be prepared for the rigors of the season, which I think they should definitely do. You should definitely be in some type of shape when you come into training camp. I don't think you should just let yourself go. Granted, after the season's over, let's say February, maybe take 2 months off. Take the rest of February off, take the rest of March off, and then you slowly start working your body back to get into, better shape. And then maybe you finalize that shape once you get into training camp. But if and as I mentioned before, if the players don't come into camp in shape, then they have to get into shape in training camp, and that means they have to run. That means they have to do all these things to get their body physically ready. And whenever you do that, you're at risk of getting hurt. I mean, there's no way around it, man. Fortunately, there's just no way around it. Niner Faithful says, Jay, do you have a favorite NBA team, or do you just like LeBron? And I'm also a Lakers fan. Yeah, I liked basketball a lot more years ago, but my passion currently is football. It's the red and gold. It's the Niner Empire. But yeah, I do like LeBron. I just like LeBron, what he does, on and off the court. But I'm definitely, my passion is more in the football for sure. Tommy says, yes, I do almond milk. Almond milk is very good. Very good. My digestive system loves almond milk. Let's see. Tommy says, John Jay just went on. It's good. No problem, man. Check out John Jay. No worries. It's all good, man. I appreciate you coming through, Tommy. Tommy says, LeBron is my favorite actor. Hey, man, a lot of the players down in the NBA, they all flop. I mean, if you ask them, they never committed a foul. Every player is, it's like every player feels like they should get more calls. Every player feels like, they never fouled the opponent. So Tommy says we should have basketball court acting. LeBron made that art very palatable. That's funny. He ain't the only one, my brother. Let's see. 49ers first take. He says, I think Crocker guests suggested players not be killing themselves in February, instead resting and staying in reasonable shape to maybe the 3rd to 4th week pre-camp. And that's a good idea. That's an excellent idea. But my thing is, whenever you are physical, injuries can happen. I mean, Tavarius Moore, he was just doing his back pedal, a back pedal that he's done thousands of times. And this time it just so happened his Achilles popped. Justin School, he was in his back pedal. He was pass protecting, something he's done probably since high school, 10, 15 years ago. And it just so happened his knee buckled. How is Shanahan going to prevent that? I mean, unless you say, Justin School, we don't want you to practice at all. I mean, come on, that's just not realistic. That's just not realistic. The only way you get better is by practicing. It's the only way you get better. Looks like Niner Faithful says LeBron, my second favorite player, currently behind Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose, he had an excellent year with the New York Knicks this year. Yeah, Derrick Rose is a beast. Looks like JB and M Sports Fanatic has graced us with his presence today. The man has an excellent YouTube channel, and he says, going to gift you guys with some spray to take out that nasty injury bug that's obsessed with the 49ers. 49ers got too much talent, and greatest challenger is avoiding injuries. That is a great point, and I appreciate your sentiments, man. And you keep doing what you're doing with that YouTube channel. Excellent content. Always keep me up to date with NFL news. And you bring up a great point that 49ers' biggest rival or biggest hindrance to getting to the NFC West division title is the injuries. Maybe it's not the Rams, maybe it's not the Cardinals, maybe it's not the Seahawks. Maybe it's the injuries is the biggest opponent to the 49ers. That's a great point. That's cap. Oh man. 49ers first take says, I agree though, some injuries aren't preventable. Yeah, it's like some things you just can't avoid. And I thought of Kobe Bryant when he had his Achilles injury. That was non-contact. It just popped. Wear and tear, as you get older, and these guys, some guys are young and they get hurt, and some guys are a little bit older, but wear and tear, you're just more likely to get hurt. And it's just frustrating because I don't know what the Niners can do. And Shanahan in the press conference today didn't mention anything that they would do differently, as far as practicing. Obviously the camp next week is canceled, so that's great. And but yeah, if the players don't come into camp in shape, then you have to get them in the shape. The only way to get them in the shape is you got to play football, you got to work out, you got to lift weights, you got to run. And when those things happen, you're risking yourself to getting hurt. But that's, fortunately, it's a part of the game. Sebastian One says, I feel bad for 49ers. They have been killed with injuries. Yeah, it's hopefully, all we can do is hope that no one else can get hurt. That's all we can really hope for. But we all know faithful. We all know the Niner Empire. We already know this is a physical sport, and guys are going to get hurt. It's it's an unfortunate part of the game, and I feel like that's what's going to determine the outcome of the game. Obviously the NFC West is very tough. December is going to be a huge month for the NFC West. I think a lot of games will be close, and the teams will be a few games between each other for that first and second seeding of the division. So I think a lot of it's going to be, who's healthiest at the right time and who makes the most plays at the right time. Alcabir, the analyst, thanks for coming through, man. He says, I'm an Eagles fan, and I thought my team was injury prone. Yeah, the Eagles have had injuries. Yeah, so and Sebastian One brings up a great topic. They need to fire their condition coaches. Now, in the press conference today with Shanahan, no one asked him about the strength and conditioning coach. No one asked him, is the strength and conditioning coach to blame for the injuries that are going on? I'm surprised that no one addressed that issue, because maybe this is a fan issue. Maybe the fans are the only ones who say, hey, maybe you guys need to check out the strength and conditioning coach. Maybe he is a source of the issues. But Shanahan did not mention that in the press conference today. Basically, it seems like Shanahan feels like these injuries are a fluke. That's what Shanahan feels. 49ers First Take says, preach at JBNM. Libby's World, what's good? Thanks for coming through to the stream. Thank you for continuing to support Jay in the Bay. I appreciate you for coming through, Libby's World. Let's see. 49ers First Take says, Shanny looked mid-season irritable today. Oh, man. Yeah, Shanahan doesn't look – that might be one of his least favorite things about being a head coach for the NFL, for the 49ers. Shanahan is interacting with the media. It definitely doesn't seem like – I don't know if he enjoys it, but – I mean, he's got to answer the question, but to a certain extent, he's not going to tell everything. It just wouldn't make sense. But yeah, that is. I did notice that today, but he's usually always like that with the media. Sometimes he smiles, most of the time he doesn't. But he tries to answer the question, but he can't answer it 100%. He's got to keep some things, to himself. I think that's just smart. JBNM says, appreciate the shout out. I hear Jimmy G is having his most impressive camp. Got the feeling he's going to be fired as he's in a similar situation Rodgers found himself in. Yeah. And that's one thing. That's one note I took down about Shanahan's press conference, was that a reporter asked Kyle Shanahan about Jimmy G. And Kyle Shanahan said that this is the best OTAs that he's ever seen of Jimmy G. That's my quarterback. So that's great to hear. It seems like Jimmy G has a fire lit under him, and with the drafting of Trey Lance, it seems like Jimmy G definitely wants to fight for his job. He's not going away quietly. Jimmy G is definitely going to fight for his job. And as I've said before in many streams and videos, Jimmy G, this is a make it or break it season for him as a starter in the NFL, I believe. He balls out, he'll be a starter for years to come. If he doesn't, if he gets hurt, or if he doesn't play well, he may not get an opportunity to be a starter. He'd probably be a backup in the NFL, but he may not get a legit chance to be a starter in the NFL. But that's definitely good to see that Jimmy G is a professional. He understands this is a business, and he wants to make the most out of his opportunity with the 49ers and go out with a bang. Let's see. Tommy Huxley said Harbaugh was the most snarky with the media, and it was funny. Yeah. I remember those days. And it really doesn't matter as long as you're winning, right? Like, Bill Belichick with the New England Patriots, he's notorious for not giving the media anything. But, people talk about it, but they really don't care because as long as you win Super Bowls, hey, it doesn't really matter. 49er Faithful says, I forgot what his name was, but I heard Grant Cohen say that we should sign the strength and conditioning coach from the Vikings. I think he used to be ours, though. And this could be a good idea, but just because we hire a different strength and conditioning coach doesn't mean we won't have any injuries. If we hire another strength and conditioning coach, will we have less injuries? There's no way to really guarantee that. But I'm sure the 49ers, they have to have looked internally at what are we doing wrong, or how can we improve? How can we keep our players, healthier throughout the season, or at least throughout the off season, right? I'm sure they had to have looked at that. And I'm not sure why they haven't changed the strength and conditioning coach. I don't know. 49ers First Take says, my issue with Niner media is how afraid of asking the tough questions they are. Everything is softball. Only Cone has the stones to ask the tough questions, just like Lowell Cone. Yeah, I mean, Matt Miyoko, he's a reporter, I believe, for San Jose, I believe, and he covers the Niners. And he asked the first question. The first question of the press conference to Shanahan was about the injuries and what the Niners can do to offset those injuries. And Shanahan, didn't really answer the question because I'm sure in his eyes, there's not much the 49ers can do besides what they're already doing. When guys are running, guys are jogging, lifting weights, whatever, there's a chance they can get hurt. I mean, I don't know what else Shanahan can do. But yeah, Grant Cohn's definitely not afraid to ask the tough questions. And it's good to see that he's there because he'll ask anything. And I think part of it is, if you're a seasoned reporter, you have an idea. Shanahan's only going to answer a question to a certain extent. He's not going to give you 100% of the answer. I mean, what do people want Shanahan to say? Fire the strength and conditioning coach. Okay, we get a new strength and conditioning coach in. And if someone else gets hurt, which will happen, what do you say then? I mean, I don't know. Looks like CG Ruthless agrees with First Takes. CG Ruthless says Cone has the guts to ask that. No, you're definitely right about that. Sebastian One says, who will have the best year? Wilson, Stafford, Garoppolo, or Murray? That's an excellent question. And I'm going to be very objective about this question. I'm going to be very objective in my answer. It's going to be Jimmy G. That's my quarterback. Now, statistically, it'll probably be either Wilson or Stafford, maybe statistically. Like, they'll probably throw for more touchdowns or whatever than Jimmy G. But it's not always about who's the best quarterback. It's about the overall team, faithful. That's what it's about. It's about the team. And I feel like the 49ers stack up well in the NFC West for having the best overall team. I think the Rams and Niners probably have the best overall team. If you look at defensively, offensively, special teams, coaching, I think the Rams and Niners have the best. But there's no doubt Russell Wilson is the best quarterback. There's no doubt he's the best quarterback in the division. But yeah, I think Wilson and Stafford probably have the best statistical year, but team-wise, I think it could be Niners and Rams for sure. Let's see. Niner Faithful says Grant talked about the interview on his stream earlier. Yeah. Sebastian One says, who wins the division? Rams, Hawks, Cards, Niners. I believe it'll be between the Rams, Hawks, and Niners. I think the Cardinals will be last in the division, but I think the Cardinals could probably still have like a 9-8, 10-7 record. But I think it'll be between the Rams, Hawks, and Niners. I think all three of those teams will probably be between 11 and 13 wins on the season. And I think the Niners could be the division winner. I think the Niners could be the division winner. Looks like Sebastian One agrees with me. He says Russ is best. Yep. I can't lie about that. Russ is best. Yeah, Niner Faithful is talking about the Grant Cohn video and said he felt like Kyle doesn't want to take any blame. And Grant Cohn, you know, he's a cool dude. You either love him or you hate him, and I take him for what he's worth. Yeah, he knows what he's doing. Grant Cohn, you know what you're doing, man. I'm not going to say he's necessarily being negative or positive in regards to Shanahan, but I think he's definitely pushing a narrative. And, you know, some people agree with Grant, some people don't. I watch Grant's videos. You know, I'm not sure. I definitely don't agree with everything he says. Some things he says are intriguing. But with regards to Shanahan, I don't know what he wants Shanahan to do. Grant Cohn, I don't know what Shanahan can do to prevent injuries. Because that's what it comes down to, right? We, as a 49er fan base, we are all disappointed, upset about the injuries. Now, I don't think any of us think that Shanahan is purposely sabotaging the team. Like Shanahan wants to get the players hurt. That's ridiculous, right? So what can Shanahan do? One person in the stream said, okay, at the end of the season, February, give your bodies time to rest. You know, rest the rest of February, the rest of March. Okay. When the players aren't in the building, the Niners have no control over them. Players can work out, players cannot work out. And if players come to camp and are not in the shape, the only way to get into shape is you got to be physical. You got to run. You got to jog. You have to do your position drills. And that's where Tavarius Moore got hurt in a position drill. He's a DB. He's doing his back pedal. DBs do back pedal thousands of times in their lifetime as playing football. And he got hurt. Justin School, he got hurt, and which also was a non-contact injury because they weren't wearing pads. Justin School was in pass protection. He was blocking a defensive lineman, and his knee gave out. What does that have to do with Shanahan? What do the Tavarius Moore and Justin School injuries have to do with Shanahan? Jeff Wilson Jr. wasn't even on the practice field. Faithful. Justin Wilson Jr. was not on the turf. He was not in the weight room. I believe he was at his locker sitting on a bench. He stood up and he literally tore his meniscus in his knee. Things just happen. Let's see. 49ers First Take says, and all I'll say, the injury excuse is not going to cut it this year. Someone needs to pay the piper if we have another losing season, most likely Lynch. Yeah. That's the cold part. Lynch has been doing good. Why y'all want to? Man, Lynch has been doing good. Lynch has re-solidified the offensive line, the secondary. He got us our franchise quarterback trade every year. He got us more depth in that running back room. Lynch has done his job. The injuries. Now, if you want to blame Lynch, it could be because he brings in or he signs free agents that have been injury prone, like D Ford. That was a disaster of a trade and signing. Weston Richburg, that turned out to be not a good deal. So you want to blame Lynch for that? Okay, but I don't think he gets to axe at the end of the offseason for those two signings that didn't work out. But yeah, hopefully, and the thing is, Lynch and Shanahan, they just signed their contract extensions last offseason. So they still have, I believe, 4 to 5 years left on their contract. I don't think Jed York wants to fire them and continue to pay them. Like, that there's a lot of guaranteed money left on those contracts. I mean, yeah, next year, or excuse me, this season, if there are injuries and it's a losing year again, I mean, the only thing you could do is fire the, strength and conditioning coach. I think that's one thing you could start, and, and maybe hire someone on the outside who can look into what other teams do. Because I'd want to know, maybe someone could tell me in the chat, did the 49ers have more injuries? Now, last year was an outlier, but previous years, did the 49ers have more injuries than other teams? If so, why? Like, that would be interesting to see. Let's see. CG Ruthless, in response to the NFC West, he says, Sebastian, it's a dogfight. Hopefully the Niners. I definitely agree. It's going to be tough. I believe our toughest games will be in division. Seahawks, Cardinals, Rams, those will definitely be our toughest games. Outside division, I think the toughest games would probably be the Colts, the Titans, the Packers, if Rodgers plays. Those are some of the games off the top of my head. But yeah, the NFC West will definitely be tough. Let's see. Sebastian One says NFC West, definitely the best division in the league. I agree. I definitely agree with that. Looks like is that a trash can, Tommy? Oh, man. Niner Faithful says, I saw a Cardinals fan say the 49ers have the worst fan base. That's cap. And when I say to the Cardinals, bring that same energy when the games start. The Cardinals have yet to win a Super Bowl. They have yet to go to the playoffs with Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury. Get to the playoffs, then come holler at me. You know what I'm saying? Let's see. CG Ruthless says Cone is more brutally honest. He is, and I respect that. And I like Grant Cone. I think he's good. He definitely loves to push a narrative, and I respect him for that because he's got the most subscribers for anyone who talks specifically about the Niners. So clearly, Grant Cone is doing something right. He does have some humor. He's honest. And he doesn't give the Niners the benefit of the doubt. And a lot of people, a lot of content creators, myself, of course, I want to give the Niners the benefit of the doubt. I want to think that they're always doing things correctly. They're always being honest with us. But we know that's not legit. That's not true. But, you want to think that, right? But Cone, he definitely does not get the Niners the benefit of the doubt. But clearly it's working. I remember when I started out making videos, it was August of 2020, and I discovered Grant Cone. He probably had, I would say, under 10,000 subscribers when I first discovered Grant Cone, and now he's got like 30. So clearly he's doing something right. And the guy uploads like 10 videos a day. So he knows what he's doing with YouTube. That's for sure. Sebastian One says, got to go, Jay. Good stream. I appreciate you coming through, Sebastian. Thanks for watching your boy, Jay in the Bay. Let's see. T.O. says, first of all, what's good? Thanks, T.O., for coming through to the stream. He says, what's up, Jay? We have the best coaching staff in the NFC West. I agree with that. I have no doubt that we will win our division. Niners for life, baby. No, I agree with that. It's definitely going to be tough. It's going to be a tough division, but I feel like the Niners definitely can win the division. 49ers First Take says, true. Probably won't be Lynch. Probably a assistant coach or strength and conditioning staff. Probably falls on the story. Exactly. Someone will be someone will be the fall guy. There's no doubt about that. Oh, also another signing that Lynch made that didn't come to that wasn't a good signing was Jed McKinnon. And Jed McKinnon, I don't know if he got hurt with the Minnesota Vikings. I'm not sure. But they paid Jed McKinnon a lot of money to be their premier running back. I believe Jed McKinnon was like one of the first few free agents that Shanahan and Lynch had signed, and he had a torn ACL. I want to say in training camp. And then the following year, he had a setback. And, Jet McKinnon was definitely a disappointment. But what do you attribute that to? Because I don't know if Jet McKinnon, I don't know his injury history, but he definitely was not a success with the Niners due to injuries. CG Ruthless says he fits the ruthless sports way. Exactly. You got to be brutally honest 100% of the time. Yep. There's no doubt. Grant Cohn, he definitely is that. Niner Faithful says, where's Cardinals Nation? I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm looking for DeAndre Hopkins as well. He and Cardinals Nation graced us with their presence. And I welcome all NFL fans to come check out Jay in the Bay. But, yeah, I don't know where they're at. Hopefully they come back during the season. That's for sure. Let's see. He says, was my interview with Cohn intriguing? Yes, it was. It was a good interview. That's dope that you were able to get Grant Cohn on your YouTube channel because, Grant Cohn, he's a shark. He's the biggest 49er YouTube, him and Rombo. So, no, that was dope, CG. Let's see. 49er Faithful says Grant went from 3K when I first subscribed to 30,000 currently. Exactly. Like his channel definitely blew up. And CG Ruthless says he went from 56 to 1.7. Not bad. That's how long Jay in the Bay knew me. Yeah. You have definitely leveled up. Exactly. I see you, CG. 49's first take says, I got mad love for you, bro. These injuries just got me hotter than fish grease. Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about the injuries all yesterday. I was in a bad mood. I had to make a video last night just to get out my frustrations because I'm just like you guys. I'm a fan. I love the Niners, and I just don't understand why these injuries are happening to us. Some of them are fluke. Yeah, some of them, the torn ACLs, Achilles. I mean, some things you're not going to be able to prevent. But it just sucks that it seems like we just have the short end of the stick. Let's see. Cardinals ghost since I smoke his football IQ. Oh, man. 49ers first take says, I'm going to ask Aponte on Friday about this same thing. Yeah, ask him, see what he thinks about it, because I don't think there really is. There's no set answer. I just don't think there's a set answer. So I talked a little bit earlier about Kyle Shanahan and the Mike McDaniel press conference. And I had mentioned before that Shanahan said that Tavarius Moore, how he got hurt, how he got his torn Achilles was he was in the back pedal, and that's something that all defensive backs do. He went forward, and the Achilles tore. That's just something that DBs do. You got to practice your back pedal. Same thing with Justin School. He was in pass protection, his knee buckled, and he tore his ACL. And I mentioned earlier that Shanahan wants to have his players have 40 days away from football, and that's part of the reason why the mini camp next week was canceled. Shanahan was also asked about Trey Lance, and he said Trey Lance did good in OTAs, and he's looking to see Trey Lance progress in the offense. Shanahan also mentioned that the rookies this year have a leg up to the rookies compared to last year, just because there's OTAs this year. There will be training camp. There will be preseason. At least that's what all signs are pointing to. And Shanahan was looking forward to the rookies continuing to progress. Let's continue with the comments. Let's see. Tommy says more like disgraced us with their presence. Oh, man. I don't mind. As long as they keep it respectful, I don't mind if the other fan bases come into the chat. I welcome it. But Shanahan was also mentioned. I think one of the biggest things that Shanahan said that stood out to me, obviously, when he talked about Jimmy G, saying that Jimmy G, this was the best OTAs that Jimmy G has looked. That's a great sign. Also, that Jimmy G, this is only his second OTAs. Because when we traded for Jimmy G, obviously that was in season. He didn't participate in OTAs, obviously. The following season, that was the first OTA. The next season, he had the torn ACL. And then there was COVID. So this is only the second season that Jimmy G has participated in OTAs, and it's great to hear that Jimmy G is playing well. Also, Shanahan said, "You got to play football to prepare for football." That was a direct quote. So you can't stay on the sideline and get better. If I want to get better at hitting the baseball, I have to hit a baseball. I can't do anything else. I have to hit a baseball. I have to watch film, all that good stuff. But the only way you get better is you have to practice. That's just the only way. You don't get better by not doing something. So that was definitely something else that Shanahan said that stood out. He did mention last year that guys weren't prepared to play, and that's why I felt like last year was a blip, not a trend. Last year, guys didn't have a regular off season, so that's definitely why there were more injuries last year. And those are some things that stood out to me about Shanahan. 49ers First Take says, he said Trey Lance pretty much completed his offense install. That's impressive for a rookie. Yeah, that's definitely great. Great for Trey Lance to do that. And I'm looking forward to see Trey Lance continue to get better, continue to learn the offense. And I want to see, I haven't seen any video of Trey Lance, in 11-on-11s. That's what I want to see. And that's why I'm so geeked up for the good old preseason. I'm very excited for the preseason. I can't wait to see Trey Lance go up against, other opponents, and let's see how he does. That's what I'm really looking forward to. Let's see. Shanahan also mentioned, there's a huge battle for the number 3 wide receiver spot. And he mentioned that, Richie James, Juwan Jennings are currently like the standouts for that number 3 wide receiver spot. Obviously, you guys know I was gung-ho to get Julio Jones. I also want us to look at maybe getting Odell Beckham Jr., maybe even getting the wide receiver from the Jets, maybe Jamison Crowder. I mentioned Jamison Crowder because he's in the last year of his contract. He's currently not at the Jets OTAs. He wants to get a contract extension, and the Jets want him to take a pay cut. So clearly, the Jets think of him differently than Jamison Crowder thinks of himself. And that could be an option that the Jets could cut Jamison Crowder and the Niners maybe be able to scoop him up. But obviously, I wanted the Niners to get a significant upgrade at the wide receiver position. And with Julio signing with the Titans or getting traded to the Titans, it seems less and less likely that the Niners are going to upgrade significantly their wide receiver position. So, I guess as far as now, I'm content with the Niners. If we can, basically, we need to replace production from Kendrick Bourne. If we can do that with the combination of Richie James, Jalen Hurd, Juwan Jennings, I think we'll be in good shape. And I think that's why the Niners aren't, making a splash, making a home run to try to get an elite receiver. So I think that's why they're not doing that. Also, Austin Watkins, he's there. Trent Sherfield, Mohamed Sanu, Travis Benjamin. Just don't know what to expect from those last two. They're on the other side of 30. But those are some of the things that stood out to me about Shanahan. Oh, yeah. And the Niners, and speaking of, I just kind of went over it. The Niners did not offer a trade to the Atlanta Falcons for Julio Jones. This was a little surprising. Obviously, I wanted them to be interested in Julio, but Shanahan gave some insight in the press conference today about why the Niners did not offer a trade for Julio. Obviously, the Niners next year, we don't have a first-round pick, and the Falcons seem hell-bent on trading Julio Jones out of the NFC. If the Falcons wanted to trade Julio to an NFC team, they probably would have not settled for anything less than a first-round pick, and the Niners don't have a first-round pick last year. And that's one of the reasons why Shanahan and Lynch did not offer a trade to Julio, because, long-term, they didn't feel like Julio would fit with the team, and the Niners just don't have the draft capital. The Niners did not want to give up the draft capital necessary to get Julio because we still need to build the team, and usually you do that through the draft. So that's one of the things. Let's see. Cinco Mo, what's good? Thanks for tuning in to the stream. Cinco says, what's good, Jay? What do you think the Niners offense will look like with Lance? If he's everything you guys hope he is, I say Lamar, but more throwing based as opposed to running. Well, that's an excellent question, Cinco Mo. There's been this narrative with Jimmy G that, Jimmy G can't make all the throws. Jimmy G is limited, and that's why the Shanahan playbook is smaller than it normally is. So if we believe that, with Lance at the helm, Trey Lance at the helm, the playbook should be wide open. Trey Lance should be looking to the right and looking to the left. Trey Lance should be throwing deep. Trey Lance should be working off of play action. Trey Lance should be, I would say, probably be running the read option, similar to kind of how the Washington football team used RG3 when the Shanahans were there. I would guess something like that. But yeah, I think there could be more downfield passes with Lance. There could be, obviously, I think there'd be more read option. There'll definitely be more runs with the quarterback. But I think Shanahan still wants to run the ball. I think Shanahan still wants to run the ball 30, 35 times a game, control the clock, and limit the opposing offense. That's how I think he wants to win games. But there's no doubt, if Lance is a starting quarterback, the playbook should open up if we believe what they say about Jimmy G. So we'll see. Jay Mouse, what's good? Thanks for tuning in to the stream, man. How you doing? And Jay says injuries after injuries after injuries. I know, right? And your avatar is Frank Gore, and Frank Gore obviously he plays a running back position. Probably, he's easily the best running back the Niners have had over the last 2 decades. He could be the greatest Niner in franchise history. But speaking of injuries, Frank Gore, he had those injuries with the ACLs at the University of Miami, but he pretty much had a clean bill of health when he was in the NFL. And and what can we attribute that to? Was it Frank Gore? Is it genes? Is he took care of his body? He was lucky. I mean, what do you attribute that to? I don't know. Obviously he trained in the off season, but every player trains in the off season. Some players still get hurt. So, you just got to hope that, players don't get hurt. But this is a physical sport. This is football. Players are going to get hurt. We just got to hope that they aren't significant injuries. Like they aren't season-ending injuries. That's all we can really hope for. Tommy says, when I see Cinco Mo, I want to sing Cinco de Mayo. Jay says Frank Gore said he's going to retire with the Niners. Yeah, I saw that on social media too. Like Frank Gore said, he's currently training and he's just waiting on the call. And if he doesn't, if a team doesn't invite him to camp, then most likely he'll retire. And of course, yeah, he'll definitely retire as a Niner for sure. Shanahan in the press conference today was asked about D Ford. And obviously D Ford has battled injuries. He didn't play all of last year. Shanahan said that D Ford has been at the facility since February, and D Ford recently went home just to get some, R&R. But Shanahan did say that D Ford is making progress, whatever that means. And D Ford is expected to be at training camp. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. Let's see. Looks like Jay says, let's hope the Niners call. Okay. And so if the Niners call, Jay, what role do you think Frank Gore could have on this 49ers offense? Do you think Frank Gore is... I don't think you would think Frank Gore would start, but I don't know. So do you think Frank Gore would be on the 53-man roster? And if so, which running back would you remove? Because I think if all the running backs are healthy, obviously besides Jeff Wilson Jr., then the options are Mostert, Gallman, Trey Sermon, Elijah Mitchell, and Jermichael Hasty. So out of those 5 backs, which one of those backs would you remove to put Gore in? That's the question I have for you, Jay. Who would Frank Gore start over in our running back room? Cinco mode like that. Let's see. Jay says, always give you a shout out on John Jay's live stream. I appreciate you, man. Thanks for tuning in to my stream. I appreciate you. Rams House says, who has the least chance to win the division? That's a great question. I think it's the Arizona Cardinals. I think the Arizona Cardinals probably have – the Arizona Cardinals have the worst coach in the division. That's one. And you brought up – and speaking of the Cardinals, there's some interesting news about Chandler Jones I heard about before I came on today. And Chandler Jones, excellent pass rusher. He's in the last year of his contract. He's currently not at OTAs. He probably wants to get a contract extension. So that'll be something to look at. Would the Cardinals allow Chandler Jones to seek a trade? That'd be interesting to look at because Chandler Jones is 30. So I'd be surprised if the Cardinals sign him to a long-term deal, maybe like a 2 or 3 year deal, maybe. But that'd be something to look at because he's obviously an excellent pass rusher. Like if you look at Chandler Jones' stats, so in 2020, Chandler Jones, he missed 5 games due to he had bicep surgery. So I should say he only played 5 games in 2020 because he had bicep surgery. In 2019, Chandler Jones for the Arizona Cardinals, he had 19 sacks. 2018, he had 13 sacks. 2017, he had 17 sacks. 2016, he had 11 sacks. So clearly, Chandler Jones is a very productive edge rusher. And the Cardinals will be fools to trade Chandler Jones because he is their best pass rusher for sure. But yeah, I think the Arizona Cardinals will have the least chance to win the division. Looks like Jay says replace Jeff Wilson. Okay, so if Jeff Wilson is, so he's on IR, right? He's currently on IR. He won't be back until November. So who would Frank Gore start or replace over Wayne Gallman, Mostert, Trey Sermon, Elijah Mitchell, or Jermichael Hasty? Out of those 5 backs, who would Frank Gore replace on an active roster? And I definitely understand that because Jeff Wilson Jr. is injured. And I was thinking, even before Jeff Wilson Jr. got injured, we still had those 6 running backs. And one or two will probably be on the practice squad. Because Jermichael Hasty was on the practice squad for a lot last year, and he was brought up to the active roster because there were injuries to the running back room. Tommy Huxley agrees with me. The Arizona Cardinals probably have the least chance of winning the division. Rams House agrees. Let's see. Jay says the sea poops. Oh, man. It's Golden Grizz. What's good? Thanks for tuning in to the stream, man. How you doing on a Wednesday? Let's see. Jay says Seahawks fans are a bunch of bozos. Oh, man. Corey Davis. I think the Rams have the least chance to win the division. Yeah, you've been on that Rams train that they ain't going to be squat with Matthew Stafford. Let me ask you this, KD. Do you think Matt Stafford is an upgrade over Jared Goff? Let me know your answer in the comment section, Corey. Is Matt Stafford an upgrade over Jared Goff? Now, if he is an upgrade over Jared Goff, the Rams are bringing back – they had the number 1 defense last year. They also brought in Deshaun Jackson to add to the wide receiver. And they already had pretty good wide receivers. And they have a few good running backs. So the Rams team is stacked. Now, I know as far as they don't have many household names on the defensive side of the ball after Aaron Donald, Ramsey, and Floyd, but the Rams team is pretty stacked. Let's see. Rams House says, come on, guys, let's get Jay 1K subs. He deserves it. I appreciate you, man. And if everyone's watching right now, make sure you leave a thumbs up for the live stream. I appreciate it. And check out Rams House. He's an excellent Rams content creator, and I enjoy his content. I can't wait till we collab, in the future when we preview the Rams and Niners game. I'm definitely looking forward to that. What's good, Sports Star? Thanks for coming through to the stream. Let's see. If Jay says if Jeff Wilson is injured, Frank Gore can start. Okay. But I don't think Jeff Wilson was going to start over Mostert. But I guess what you're saying is Mostert would start, and you're saying Frank Gore is better than Trey Sermon, Elijah Mitchell, Wayne Gallman, and Jermichael Hasty. So that's what you're saying. Okay. Well, I don't know. I don't know what else Frank Gore has left in the tank, to be totally honest with you. I think Frank Gore, maybe he could be like a goal line back or maybe like a short yardage back on third down. But, I don't know why. Why don't the Niners bring him in? I don't know. I'm not sure why. Let's see. Jay says at Rams House, let's get Jay and the Beta 1K for sure. And Rams House says Stafford is for sure an upgrade over Jared Goff. Yep. Yep. I definitely think so, Rams House. Corey Davis says no. I think that Stafford and Goff are the same because they can't win big games. Interesting. So, there's no doubt that Stafford is a prolific passer. He's thrown for over 5,000 yards in a regular season. But Stafford, I guess you could say his best head coach was probably Jim Caldwell, most likely. I'm not sure why Jim Caldwell got fired in Detroit. But, he's definitely a prolific passer. He hasn't had any success in the playoffs. I think he's only been to the playoffs one time in his career, Matt Stafford. But there's no doubt that this Rams team is probably the best team offensively. And there's no doubt defensively. There's no doubt. Defensively, this is definitely the best team that Stafford has been a part of. The Rams have a complete team. And, Matt Stafford, he should flourish, in this system. So I guess KD, we'll see what happens, man. But that's why they play the games, KD. That's why they play the game. So I'm excited to see how it all comes out because the Rams, they have a pretty tough schedule. At least the first 4 or 5 games I saw, they have a pretty tough schedule. So we'll find out real quick what Stafford's all about. Looks like Tommy says, Rams House, that's for damn sure. Okay. J Mouse says, at Rams House, the Seahawks are a bunch of bozos. Do you agree? Oh, man. Tommy says, I think the offense improved for the Rams. I think they regressed defensively. Okay. How did they regress defensively? I don't know any big names that left the Rams this offseason. They still have Donald, Ramsey, Floyd. So how did they regress? Let me know. The Sports Star says Sermon is a crazy good running back when he's not hurt. I meant to do a video on him before the draft. Yeah, I mean, he definitely is, was an excellent running back in college. I was surprised that the 49ers drafted a running back that high in the 3rd round. I was surprised that we drafted a offensive lineman in the 2nd round of the draft. I definitely thought that we would draft a corner. But, clearly Lynch wanted to solidify the offensive line, and he saw great value in getting Aaron Banks in the 2nd round of the draft. And we were able to get Aaron Banks, and we traded down. So we were able to get more picks. So, I think that was an interesting move, and I'm looking forward to the Daniel Brunskill versus Aaron Banks battle for that starting right guard spot. That should be an intriguing battle in training camp. Jay says, no, I'm not saying Frank Gore is better than the other running backs on the 49ers, but Frank Gore can be a goal line. Yeah, and I can agree with that. And I don't know why they don't use Kyle Juszczyk more on the goal line. I don't know. They could use Kyle Juszczyk, as a goal line back, as a short yard rusher. But yeah, I agree with you, Jay. I don't know why the Niners don't bring Frank in, though. I don't know. Just like Tommy says, Jay, I agree there. Okay. And looks like Tommy comes into defense of Jared Goff. Tommy says Goff did win NFC Championship. That's a big game. True. And he has played in a Super Bowl. So you could argue that Goff has been more successful than, team-wise, playoff success-wise than Matt Stafford. But clearly, Goff has had the better leadership at the head coaching position. He's had the better overall team. So, if the Rams can get to the Super Bowl with Goff, I mean, what can they do with Stafford, We'll see. So let's see. Jay says at Rams House. Oh, yeah, that's a good point. We signed Samson Ibuka. What can you tell us about him? What is he going to bring to the Niners? So that's a great question for Rams House if you're still on. So Jay wants to know for Rams House, we signed Samson. What can you tell us about him, and what is he going to bring to the Niners? What I noticed from Samson is he wasn't really used as an edge rusher with the Rams. And Samson, he was in a presser, I believe it was a week or 2 weeks ago, and he was asked by a reporter, what do you do differently with the Rams as opposed to the Niners? And Samson said with the Rams, they wanted him to read and react. That's what the Rams defense wanted Samson to do. And then with the Niners, Samson said that the Niners want him to just attack. So that is a major difference from the Rams' philosophy to the Niners. So, but do you have any other insight about Samson Rams House? Let us know in them comments. Let's see. Rams House says Jared Goff fails under pressure and can't read defenses, but also can't make the accurate throws. Stafford can do all of that. He also has great comebacks. Stafford can't win playoff wins because his team. That is a very good point. And what you say about Goff is very true. And, but Stafford, he never had, I don't even know if Stafford ever had 1,000-yard rusher. If he did, he probably had more running backs that didn't rush for 1,000 yards than he did. The defense was always an issue in Motown, and they just couldn't build around him. I mean, I know he had Calvin Johnson, he was a beast, but they weren't able to build a complete team around Stafford. It's like Jay wants to know from Rams House, what is Samson going to bring to the Niners? Tommy says they have zero depth and their linebackers are average. If you aren't getting better, you are getting worse, Jay, my dude. No, that's very true. Very true. Yeah, I don't know the other players on the Rams defense. So they're not household names. And that doesn't mean they're not good. It's just that I haven't seen them perform at an elite level. So hopefully for the Rams fans' sake, they can prove me and the other 49er fans wrong. Because I think at the 49ers defense, at every level of the defense, there's a Pro Bowler. In the secondary, I think you could say Jimmy Ward could be a Pro Bowler. Jason Verrett was a Pro Bowler last year. Or I don't know if he was elected to the Pro Bowl, but he at least had a Pro Bowl-worthy season last year. Obviously, Fred Warner, the best middle linebacker in the NFL. And then, of course, you got Nick Bosa. So, and, for Armstead has the potential to be a Pro Bowler, but he got to get more sacks. But, yeah, I think at every level of our defense, you could say there's definitely a Pro Bowler. And with the Rams, the linebacker position, I don't know, maybe a little bit leaves to be desired. So, but we'll see. We'll see what they do. It's like Rams House in response to Jay, what does Samson Ibuka bring to the 49ers? Rams House says that Samson is a speed rusher. He strips the ball well, doesn't have the best finesse moves, didn't pan out for us, but he could do well for you. Yeah. And that's what we're hoping. I think that's what Lynch signed him for, to be an edge rusher. because I think that was definitely an issue for us last year. I mean, Kerry Hyder led the team in sacks. I believe he had 8 sacks. Kerry Hyder did, so he was our best edge rusher last year. And other than him, I mean, there wasn't really any other player who got a significant amount of sacks. But I'm not 100% sure on that. So let me look real quick at the 49ers defensive stat leaders last year in 2020. Let's see, because I know, Hyder balled out. I know Kerry Hyder balled out. That's why he got a nice contract with them good old Seattle Seahawks. Let's see. So let's see. So Hyder had 8.5 sacks. So the next player behind Hyder, most in sacks, was Eric Armstead with 3.5 sacks. So you go from Kerry Hyder, who had 8.5, to the next best sack man was Eric Armstead with 3.5 sacks. And then after that, you had DJ Jones. Go DJ. That's my DJ. Go DJ. I'm definitely glad that we brought DJ Jones back. But, there wasn't a lot of production sack-wise with the 49ers last year. And most of that is because, Bosa wasn't there. So hopefully Samsung can bring some pressure to the quarterback. That's definitely what we're going to need him for. Tommy says, good point, Jay. I think we're going to utilize Juice way more. I think we should. Man, he's the highest paid fullback in the NFL. He's obviously instrumental in the run game. He's an excellent blocker. I like when they throw the ball to Juice check out the backfield. I think he's crafty in the open field. And, yeah, I think he brings a lot to this offense. I definitely think we should use him more. And Jay is very appreciative of the Rams house for giving us information about Samsung. Let's see. Rams house did some research. Last time Stafford had a 1,000-yard rusher was 2013. Wow. So, it definitely helps when an offense is, not predictable. So if an offense can run the ball and pass the ball, it keeps the defense on its heels. If the offense can't run the ball, then the defensive linemen, they can just worry about rushing the passer. The secondary just has to worry about, protecting against the pass. They don't have to worry about coming up and providing, coverage against running backs and tackling running backs. So it definitely helps when an offense is, there's a good balance. It definitely helps when an offense has good balance between the run and the pass. And Stafford, for a majority of the years, he didn't have that. So that's definitely a reason why Stafford wasn't successful. Jay says, why did Kerry Hyder have to go to the sea? I know, man. Come on, Kerry. Why you got to go to them good old Seahawks, man? Well, that's a question I'd want to ask John Lynch. What did we offer Kerry Hyder? Obviously Kerry Hyder had an excellent year for us last year, 8.5 sacks, led the team. I don't think we should have given him a long-term contract extension, but, a 1-year deal, I'll be down to bring Hyder back. But, he got that 3-year contract extension with the Seahawks, and I don't know if many other teams were offering Kerry Hyder, multiple year contracts. So, hey, maybe Kerry Hyder like the West Coast, man. Maybe that's why he wanted to stay with them Seahawks. They probably offered him the best money. He got to stay on the West Coast, and he gets to play against the Niners every 2 games a year. So, that could be a reason why for Hyder to sign with them good old Hawks. That's cow. I mean, I'm not saying Hyder's Reggie White or Lawrence Taylor. I mean, I'm not saying that, man. I mean, but it ain't no lie though, Matt. He led the team in sacks. I mean, Kerry Hyder, he's not Alden Smith. He's not fast. He's not quick, but he can get pressure on the quarterback. And that's definitely an area where the Seahawks lacked last year. Like, it seemed like their defense got much better when they traded for Carlos Dunlap, and they also brought him back as well. So you got Dunlap and Hyder rushing the quarterback on the edge. So, that's a solid pass rushing tandem. Jay says the Seahawks are bozos. Kerry Hyder is going to a bozo team. That's cap. Oh, man. The Seahawks, there's no doubt, though. Seahawks have talent, and they're definitely going to be tough to beat at home or away. Rams House says the Rams may not have a lot of household names on the defense, but that's the way the Rams work. People don't know their names because of where they are drafted, but then the world will know. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully, for the Rams' sake, that they'll prove us wrong in the division. Because yeah, that's the knock on the Rams, is they're top heavy, and what can the other players bring to the table? But we'll see. That's why they play the games. Rams House. They don't play the games on paper. They play the games on that gridiron. So we'll see. Let's see. Tommy says, Samsung didn't pan out for you. You just couldn't afford him. Let's be honest. They may have not wanted to pay him, a 3-year contract extension, that could be a reason why. And Jay says, juice, give us some juice. And Jay says, oh yeah, there's no doubt. Fred Warner is on a trajectory to be a Hall of Famer, no doubt. And hopefully we sign Fred Warner, sooner than later. Because there's another linebacker, Leonard Davis, who plays for the Colts. Him and Warner were drafted in the same year. And Leonard Davis is up for a contract extension. And if you look at the stats, now I have to be objective, faithful. That's one of my qualities. I got to be objective. And if you look at the stats, Leonard Davis, I believe, in the major categories for linebackers, has better stats than Fred Warner. So you could say that he's the better linebacker. But, if Leonard Davis signs first, I think Fred Warner can say, well, I want, $1 more than Leonard Davis. That's just how it works. And vice versa. If Fred Warner gets paid first, Leonard Davis will say, well, I should get paid more because my stats were better. But yeah, hopefully we sign Fred Warner sooner than later. J Mouse says, all pro Fred, ready for year 4. Exactly. I'm ready to see him dominate. And Jay says, pay Fred every penny. I agree. And Shanahan, I mentioned Shanahan talked about D Ford, that D Ford made progress, whatever that means. We'll see what D Ford, how he's doing in training camp. Shanahan was also asked about in the press conference the how many players were vaccinated. And Shanahan said 52 players are vaccinated, and they have a goal of getting 85% players to be vaccinated. So I think that's good. Also, as Mike McDaniel was a part of the press conference as well, and we'll definitely talk about what I thought stood out from Mike McDaniel. Just like Jay says at Rams House, you're getting our all-pro linebacker brother, Troy Warner. I think he's going to pan out for you guys. And I think Troy Warner plays safety. So, yeah, we'll see how he plays for them good old Rams. 49ers Ultimate Report. What's good? Thanks for coming through to the stream, man. He says, sorry I missed your show. I had a live stream with the Niners Sickness. Now, those are two excellent YouTubers. 49ers Ultimate Report and the Niners Sickness. Make sure you guys check him out. But I think everyone in the chat pretty much knows those guys. But if you don't, make sure you check them out. But yeah, I wasn't able to see your stream, but I'll definitely check it out after my stream for sure. Because I want to see you in the Niners Sickness. Talk about them good old red and gold. Rams House, he's paying homage to Fred Warner. He says Fred Warner is such a good linebacker. That's right. Now, Mike McDaniel, he's the current offensive coordinator for the Niners. And Mike McDaniel has been coaching with Kyle Shanahan for 14 years. So they've known each other for a long time. Mike McDaniel, He was previously the assistant coach for the Atlanta Falcons, Cleveland Browns, Washington football team, Houston Texans, Denver Broncos. So he's been around the league, Mike McDaniel. And he served in roles as a running back coach, wide receiver coach, run game coordinator. And this is his first year with the 49ers as the offensive coordinator. So he is experienced, but he won't be calling plays. Shanahan will still be doing that. And Mike McDaniel talked about his responsibilities in the presser. Tommy says, got to go rehearsal. Appreciate you for coming through, Tommy, man. Hope you enjoyed the stream. Niner Sickness, what's good? Thanks for tuning in to the stream, man. I heard you were on the 49ers Ultimate Report. I'm going to check that out for sure. Hey, Niner Sickness, what do you think about the 49ers injuries? What can Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers brass do to lessen the amount of injuries that happen on the field? Niner Sickness, if you could answer that for me, that'd be greatly appreciated. Because I talked about that at least for like the first half an hour with the people in the show. So let me know what you think about that, Niner Sickness. How can Kyle Shanahan and the Niners brass lessen the amount of injuries that have happened so far? What's good, Niner Sickness, man? And so Mike McDaniel will be the offensive coordinator, but he answered a few questions in the presser today, and he mentioned that he will not call plays on game day. And he was also asked about the impact of Justin School and the injury. So obviously Justin School tore his ACL, out for the year, and Justin School was used as a swing tackle. And Justin School would basically be the first guy, off the bench if Trent Williams or Mike McGlinchey would be out. And Mike McDaniel was asked, well, who's next in line? Who would be the next player to replace Justin School? And that player, he talked about Colton McKivitz, Jalen Moore, that's the offensive lineman we drafted this year, and also Sean Coleman. So those are three names to look out for. Those three players could be in the running for the swing tackle position. Rams House says, Jalen Ramsey switched his number to number 5. It looks so weird. Yeah, those single-digit numbers for the secondary is going to look weird. It's just something that we'll have to get used to. So everyone in the stream, let me know if you have any thoughts about what the Niners can do to lessen the injuries. Let me know. And also, what do you guys feel about the Niners not offering compensation for Julio Jones? I mean, what do you guys think of that? The 49ers did not offer a trade for Julio Jones. What do you guys think of that? And also, what do you guys think? How can we lessen the injuries for the 49ers? Looks like 49ers First Takes has an excellent idea. Put them in bubble wrap. Yeah, that would be nice, right? That would be nice. Osby Sports, what's good? I see you, Osby, man. Keep doing your thing, man. You had 600 subscribers, man. Your channel is leveling up. I see you, Osby Sports. Keep doing what you're doing, man. You gonna pass me, man. You about to pass me in a hot minute. I see you though, Osby. Thanks for coming through to the stream. Let's see. Jay says, at Niner Sickness, saw some of your talk with John Jay. Good live stream. All right. Niner Sickness says, the $1 million question, LOL. Kyle Shanahan needs to take his foot off the brakes when it comes to practice. I know Robert Saleh, all gas, no brakes, but Kyle Shanahan has taken it too far, LOL. I mean, I had mentioned earlier in the stream, because there were some questions about how you had talked about. I know you had talked about on your channel, Jeff Wilson Jr., how he got hurt. It was like basically a fluke. He just stood up and then he tore his meniscus. But there were some questions about how Tavarius Moore and Justin School got hurt. And Tavarius Moore, he was on the practice field. He was in his back pedal. And that's something that all DBs do. You know, DBs are in their back pedal. That's something they practice. And he was in his back pedal. And I've seen this drill 100 times. The DB's in his back pedal. He's going back. He stops, and then he runs straight or at an angle, and then he catches the football. So I've seen that 1,000 times. And I'm sure Tavarius Moore has done that 1,000 times. And this time, it just so happened that he popped his Achilles. So, you know, how is Shanahan going to prevent that? You know, and that's not even, I mean, that ain't even going 100%. I mean, I'm sure they can do those drills without going 100%. And they probably weren't going 100%. And Justin School, you know, offensive lineman's one of his best assets is his stance, his pass protection, and his kickback when he's going back and he's allowing the defender to come to him and he puts his hands out. That's basically what Justin School was doing. He was on the turf, blocking a defensive lineman, and he was in his kickback, pass protection, and it just so happens he got torn Achilles, his knee buckle. You know, so in those situations, I don't know what Shanahan can do, man. You know? Jay Mouse, that was funny. Drivers, start your engines. I was proud of Shanahan, man. He did his thing up in Sonoma. Yeah, Jay, he was yelling out with his lungs. Oh, man. Let's see. 49ers first takes in response to Julio Jones. 49ers first take says the lack of draft picks is the issue when it comes to Julio and having to take on that massive salary. Now, yeah, that's a great point. We don't have a first round pick next year, and we have a limited amount of picks, and we still have to, you know, add talent to the team. You know, if it was me, I still wish we would have got Julio, but obviously that didn't come to fruition, and we still have to continue to add talent to the team. Like, I would say, I mean, we probably still need to get corners in next year's draft and probably edge rusher. You know, those are like some of the most important parts of the defense. Edge rusher, corner, probably a safety as well. Because, you know, Mosley's on a 2-year deal, but Verrett and K'Wan Williams are only on 1-year deals. So, you know, that will be an area that will need to be addressed. And the way you address that is, you know, through the draft and free agency. Monica, what's good? Thanks for coming through to the stream. We doing pretty good. We talking about that red and gold. It's like Niner Signet says, I'm joking about Shanahan overworking the players. Injuries it's just part of football. And Shanahan mentioned, you know, you get better at football by playing football. And if the players don't come into camp in shape, well, they have to get into shape. The only way to get into shape is you got to run, you got to jog, you got to lift weights. And when you do that, yeah, injuries can happen. Looks like Jay says we need more draft picks. We need a first-round pick for next year in 2023. Yeah, hopefully, you know, Jimmy G balls out this year. We can trade him to a team for a first-round pick or at worst a second-round pick. Looks like Jay agrees with the Niner sickness. Cinco Mo says, I mean, y'all really didn't have anything to give, and the only way you would get them from us in conference is by giving us a first that you didn't have, so it was a go, no either way. No, that's very true. The Atlanta Falcons were definitely hell-bent on trading Julio out of the NFC conference. They didn't want to trade him in conference. And if they were, yeah, they would say, oh, well, we're not trading him for less than the first round. That's why I think they settled to trade him to the Titans for just a second and a fourth round pick. So, but yeah, I appreciate your thoughts, Cinco. 49ers first take says that's the plan. Yep. Yeah, next year's draft, we still need to get more secondary, edge rusher, and that's it for defense. And on offense, I mean, I still think it's wide receiver, but I still think it's wide receiver. Jay says, I saw on Twitter that Trey got a new chain and a new watch. All right. I know he got a nice check. So, yeah, why not, man? Why not splurge a little bit? But I appreciate everyone coming through to the stream. I appreciate everyone watching on that good old Spotlight Sports Network. Appreciate everyone watching on Jay and the Bay on YouTube. Let me know if you have any more questions, comments, concerns. Leave them in the comments section. But I just wanted to hop on here for a little bit, talk about, the presser today, what we learned from it. I think we learned that there's not going to be anything significantly changed about how the Niners practice. I think Shanahan kind of echoed that. Obviously, the mini camp that was scheduled for next week is canceled, and Shanahan said that's partly because of the amount of players that came to OTAs this week, 89 players, and he felt that they got a lot accomplished. And also, Mike McDaniel. I think Mike McDaniel, that was the first press conference Mike McDaniel had since becoming the offensive coordinator. I mean, honestly, I didn't really, learn too much from it. I mean, he's not going to be calling plays. Sure, he'll be helping Shanahan design plays, but if the offense does well, we're not going to be praising Mike McDaniel. Rest assured. We're going to be saying, oh, Shanahan's a genius. So, Corey Davis says, has Trey Lance signed? I don't think so. No, I don't think Trey Lance has signed a contract yet. I'm sure they're, just negotiating right now. So let's see. Appreciate it, man. Thank you. When it rains, it pours. Glad you enjoyed that. Oh, man. Yeah, and Niner Sickness says, yeah, not yet Corey Davis. I think I'm not even 100% sure, but I know for sure Trey hasn't been signed, but I think we've re-signed majority of our picks, but I think Trey has not been signed just yet. But I think we signed like Trey Sermon. We signed the running backs. I believe we signed all the corners except one. So I think there might be like 2 or 3 players from this year's draft class who haven't been signed yet, and Trey Lance is one of them. And appreciate you, Monica. I'm glad you enjoy. Oh, man. Let's see. Jay says Trey Lance looking fancy for all the girls with that new chain and that new watch. Yeah, I'm sure he's dressed to impress, man. I know everyone saw the video of the Niners in Vegas last weekend. I know everyone saw that, so it looked like they were having a good time, having some good R&R. Niner Sickness says Jay in the Bay is the best. Appreciate you, man. Yeah, exactly. You guys are, you guys are YouTube brothers for sure. Niner Sickness, 49ers First Take, 49ers Ultimate Report, CG Ruthless, all the YouTube content creators. And, of course, I appreciate everyone, my subscribers, everyone who's watching the stream, everyone who's been commenting. I appreciate you guys. And almost at 2 hours. And this went by pretty fast. Monica says, yes, he destined and finessing. He is. And I think I will be signing off, but I appreciate everyone coming through. Let's see. Today is Wednesday. So I'll probably stream again, probably on Sunday at the latest. If there's any more news that comes about, then maybe it'll be sooner, but most likely the earliest would be, or I should say the latest would be Sunday. But yeah, it depends on if any other news comes out. But I appreciate everyone coming through to the stream. Shout out to everyone watching from that good old Spotlight Sports Network. And I will see you guys in the next one. And go Niners. Appreciate everyone coming through, watching your boy, Jay in the Bay. See you guys in the next one real soon.